Let's go to our phone callers. First up is Laura, listening in Antioch, California, Sirius XM 131. Hi, Laura.
Hello there. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I am very blessed, and I want to say thank you for your ministry. And, sometimes they listen, and I worry that because some of our freedoms are being taken away, year by year, the nativity, they don't want to, atheists don't want us to do this, that maybe one day we won't have this opportunity to have a station like you have. So I just want to encourage myself and everybody out there, continue to give, because one day we may not have this freedom. And thank you so much for what you're doing.
Thank you so much for those words, Laura.
Today I have a question about Luke 4. Forgive me, I'm on the road, so I can't quote it. But the first part of Luke 4 is Jesus in the temple. He opens from the book of Isaiah. And he quotes it, and he says, "Today in your presence this has been fulfilled." And I was picturing myself in that situation, and you could probably hear a pin drop, kind of deer in the headlight type of feeling. Mm-hmm. And then later on in Luke 4, he talks about back in the days of Elijah, how God, he dealt with some widows, but there's one particular widow that he went to help, but not the others. And then the leaders, whoever it was that were listening, got so mad at Jesus, they decided to just throw him out. And, they were furious. So I wasn't really sure as to why they got so mad at what he said about the widows.
Well, this is a great example of Jesus pointing back to the Old Testament and demonstrating that what happened in the Old Testament is not all that novel and new, in that the same thing is reoccurring again in the present. In the Old Testament, you had the people of God rejecting the prophets of God. But you see that with Jeremiah. Jeremiah is thrown into a well for telling the people of God precisely what they needed to hear. And then the false prophets come along and tell the people what their itching ears want to hear, things that are going to be destructive to them. And those are the prophets that the people follow. So Jesus is now giving some examples. Those examples go back to the Old Testament prophets like the prophet Elijah and Elisha, rejected by their own country, by their own people in their own time. And now Jesus is using this as an example of precisely what is happening. He comes to his own, and his own receive him not. And of course, he is using a proverb. And that proverb incites the people, as it were, to a sort of jealousy, not a good jealousy, but a jealousy. Jesus says, "You will surely say this proverb to me, 'Physician, heal yourself.' Whatever we have heard done in Capernaum, do also here in your own country." Well, Jesus now is using this idea to underscore the fact that they're not accepting what he is doing. His country is rejecting him. And so what happens? Well, the people in the synagogue are upset. Jesus is condemning Israel. Israel continues to lack faith and faithfulness. But what happens as a result of that is the gospel goes out to the Gentiles. And Paul makes a big point of this. What happens is the Jews reject, the Gentiles receive. The receiving by the Gentiles causes the Jews to become jealous and spurs them on to perhaps listening as well. So again, Jesus had just offered 2 occasions in which the prophets of the Lord offered miraculous acts of grace to Gentiles when Israel was in a state of belief. And if the Jews reject Christ, again, there is an attendant consequence, and the consequence is the gospel goes out to the Gentiles, which is really what it's all about anyway, because Jesus was never a parochial Jewish Messiah. He came so that the gospel might go out to the Jews and to the Gentiles, in fact, to the ends of the earth.